Sunday mornings are usually peaceful for me. I should probably be at church, but instead, I'm wandering the aisles of the local home improvement store, looking for nothing in particular. As I pass the garden section, debating whether to grab some seeds, I hear a familiar voice. "Gabe, it's been a while," says Barry, an old family friend. Barry and I share the same problem. Our wives are close friends who often pull us into their plans without much choice. We fall into step, browsing the shelves. Both of us are looking forward to a quiet week. My wife, Vanessa, and his wife, Laura, are setting off for a week-long Caribbean cruise tomorrow. The trip is just for them, a getaway they insisted would be a bonding experience, and I couldn't really argue when Vanessa said I'd be a third wheel on the trip. Barry had a similar story. Laura told him he should stay back because she wanted to relax with just Vanessa. As we chat, a strange realization settles between us. "So, you're not going because Laura said I couldn't get off work?" Barry asks with a frown. I stare at him, dumbfounded. "But Vanessa said you couldn't get off work." We look at each other, pieces of an odd puzzle slowly starting to come together. Neither of us is scheduled to work this week. In fact, we both plan to take some time off. A cold, unsettling feeling creeps into my stomach. The ladies are going on this girls-only cruise, and each of us was told the other couldn't come along. Could there be more to this than meets the eye? "Let's grab some coffee," Barry suggests. "We need to talk this out somewhere quiet." I nod, and we head over to a nearby diner, a pit forming in my gut. We sit across from each other in a corner booth at the diner, hot cups of coffee steaming in front of us. The conversation starts slow. Small talk about work, sports, anything but what's weighing heavily on our minds. But eventually, the silence grows too tense, and I break it. "Barry, be honest. Do you think there's any chance?" I can barely say it. The thought feels so surreal, but Barry catches my meaning immediately. He looks down, stirring his coffee absently. "I don't want to think like that," he mutters. "But why else would they lie about something so specific?" His voice falters, and I see the same fear in his eyes that's clawing at my chest. The absurdity of it all sinks in. Vanessa and Laura, our wives, mothers to our kids, partners for years. Could they really be hiding something this serious? Part of me resists even entertaining the idea. But then, there's the other part, the part that recalls late nights at the office, the sudden nights out with the girls that have become more frequent. They both work at the same place, right? The insurance office? I ask, piecing together every shred of information that suddenly feels like a clue. Barry nods. International Insurance Group. They work long hours together, sometimes even weekends. I used to think it was just the demands of their job. I stare out the window, the early afternoon sunlight feeling oddly cold now. Maybe it was, but now, if they lied about us both being unable to come, what else could they be hiding? Barry takes a deep breath, his voice low and almost pleading. Maybe it's all just a misunderstanding. Maybe they just wanted a girls' week, you know? I can tell he doesn't believe it any more than I do. And deep down, I know what we need to do. There's only one way to find out, I say firmly. We need to get to the bottom of this. Together. Barry nods, his face resolute. Let's find out the truth. We decide to make a plan. Both of us are silent, our minds racing as we finish our coffee and walk back to the parking lot. This isn't something we can just confront our wives about. If we're wrong, the damage it would do is unimaginable. If we're right, though, neither of us even wants to finish that thought. "So, how do we go about this?" Barry asks, his voice low as if afraid someone might overhear. "We don't have much time," I say, glancing at my watch. "They're leaving tomorrow morning, right?" Barry nods. "First thing. They've got a car booked to take them to the airport." I hesitate, a plan forming in my mind, but feeling like I'm stepping into unfamiliar, dangerous territory. We could follow them, see where they go once they board the cruise. Maybe it's nothing, but if we're there, we can find out for sure. Barry's eyes widen, both nervous and intrigued. "You mean like, follow them onto the cruise? Just show up and act like it's a coincidence?" Exactly. We book last-minute tickets and catch the same ship. We blend in, watch them, and see if they're meeting up with anyone or if they're actually just enjoying a girl's getaway. Barry's silent, mulling it over. You think they won't notice us? We'll keep our distance, just enough to observe. If there's nothing to it, we'll leave them alone. But if something's going on, well, we'll be there to see it with our own eyes. The plan is risky and feels crazy, but Barry nods in agreement. Fine, let's do it. I'd rather know the truth than sit at home wondering. With a sense of purpose, we both agree to book tickets for the same cruise. We'll stay out of sight, play it cool, and wait. By tomorrow, we'll be on that ship, searching for the truth. The next morning, we're at the airport, watching from a distance as Vanessa and Laura check in for their flight. They look excited, laughing and chatting like they are about to have the time of their lives. My stomach twists as I try to suppress a surge of anger. I remind myself to stay calm, to wait and see what happens. Barry and I manage to stay out of sight, blending in with the crowd. We've already booked our tickets on the same cruise, and we'll board right after them. Once we're on the ship, we'll maintain our distance, watching from afar. Our plan is simple: observe and gather enough information to either confirm or dispel our suspicions. As we board our flight to the port city, neither of us speaks much. Barry stares out the window, his jaw clenched, his thoughts clearly as dark as mine. Every now and then, he mutters something under his breath, shaking his head. I understand exactly what he's feeling: betrayal, frustration, disbelief. After the plane lands, we make our way to the cruise terminal, and there they are again, laughing as they move through the line. We duck out of sight, joining the check-in line a few minutes later to avoid being seen. My heart pounds as I watch Vanessa, the woman I once thought I'd share everything with, standing there without a care in the world. It's unsettling, but I force myself to stay focused. This isn't the time to confront her. Once on board, Barry and I make a pact. We'll stay close to each other and avoid unnecessary risks. We're just here to gather evidence. After all, if this is some awful misunderstanding, I'd rather not make a fool of myself. We check into our cabins, located on a different deck from our wives. From here, it's a waiting game. We spend the first day exploring the ship, getting a feel for its layout, noting the places Vanessa and Laura might frequent. It's a strange experience, playing this role, but I'm determined to see this through. As night falls, Barry and I settle into a spot near one of the ship's lounges, a place we figure our wives might visit. And sure enough, a couple of hours later, there they are, dressed up, laughing, and with two men by their sides. My heart plummets, the bitter taste of betrayal hitting me like a punch to the gut. I can barely believe what I'm seeing. There they are, my wife and Barry's, sitting close to two men we've never seen before, smiling, laughing, looking more comfortable than they have in months. Barry's hand tightens on his glass, and I know he's feeling the same explosion of anger, confusion, and heartbreak that's tearing me up inside. We don't even know who those guys are, Barry whispers, as if trying to convince himself of some innocent explanation. But we both know that, whatever the explanation, it's nothing good. I keep my eyes fixed on Vanessa, watching as she leans closer to the man next to her. My mind flashes back to 100 little moments, times I thought were perfect and happy. Now they feel like illusions, moments I can barely trust. Stay calm, I murmur, mostly to myself. I want to march over there, Demand answers, but that wouldn't get us anywhere right now. We need to know exactly what's going on, not just fragments of it. For all I know, this might go deeper than one trip, deeper than even these two guys. Barry grits his teeth. How do you even stay calm in a moment like this? They've been lying to us. We need to keep watching, I reply, keeping my voice steady despite the storm raging inside me. Let's see how far they're willing to go. We sit in silence, each of us watching our wives laugh and flirt as if we don't even exist. It feels surreal, like watching a movie, and I keep waiting for someone to yell "cut" and end this nightmare. But the scene keeps unfolding. An hour later, the two men lead Vanessa and Laura to the ship's main deck, out by the railing, where the night sea stretches out like an endless void. Barry and I follow from a distance, careful to stay hidden in the shadows. From where we stand, we can hear snippets of their conversation, laughter drifting through the air. Every laugh from Vanessa feels like a dagger, each one sharper than the last. They don't even care, Barry says, his voice breaking. They don't care who they're hurting. I look at him, feeling the same heartbreak, but knowing we can't afford to break down. Not yet. Tomorrow, I say, my voice low but firm. We confront them tomorrow, once we have more to go on. Tonight, let's just see where this goes. Barry nods, and we both step back, vanishing into the shadows, waiting for the truth to fully reveal itself. The next morning, I wake up with a hollow ache in my chest, memories of the previous night replaying in my mind. Barry and I had watched from a distance as our wives laughed and flirted with those strangers, acting as if they were free, as if we were nothing but ghosts left behind. As soon as I'm dressed, I meet Barry at the small cafe on the ship's lower deck. He looks just as wrecked as I feel, his face drawn and tired, eyes bloodshot from a night of restless anger and disbelief. I barely slept, he admits, running a hand through his hair. Every time I closed my eyes, I just saw Laura smiling at that guy, acting like I didn't exist, like we don't exist. Same, I reply, swallowing down the bitterness that rises. But we need to stay sharp. Today, we get answers. We decide to keep a low profile during the day, observing from a distance whenever we see them, waiting for the right moment to confront them. By late afternoon, Vanessa and Laura are by the pool with those same two men, laughing and sunbathing without a care in the world. My chest tightens as I watch her, the betrayal cutting deeper with every smile she gives him, every touch. Finally, as evening approaches, Barry and I settle on a plan. We'll catch them in the lounge after dinner, when they're more likely to be relaxed and unguarded. We'll ask them directly, face to face, and force them to tell us the truth. The hours creep by until, at last, we see them heading toward the lounge with the same men by their sides. We follow at a safe distance, our minds made up and emotions barely contained. As soon as they're seated, we make our approach, each step fueled by a mix of anger and heartbreak. Vanessa glances up first, her eyes widening in shock as she spots me. The color drains from her face, and Laura looks equally stunned. What are you two doing here? Vanessa stammers, her voice barely a whisper. I can feel the fury simmering beneath the surface, but I force myself to stay calm. Funny, I was about to ask you the same thing. Barry steps forward, his voice a low growl. Mind introducing us to your friends? The men look uncomfortable, glancing at Vanessa and Laura for cues. Vanessa stammers something incoherent, her face pale, and I can see the guilt etched across her expression. This is it, the moment of truth. Vanessa's eyes dart around, looking for an escape, but there's nowhere to go. I've waited for this moment all day, replaying it in my head, preparing myself to confront her without losing my cool. You lied to me, Vanessa, I say, keeping my voice level, though every word feels like fire on my tongue. You told me I couldn't come on this trip because Barry was working, and you wanted a girl's getaway. Vanessa opens her mouth, but no words come out. Her face twists, a mixture of shock and guilt, as she realizes she's cornered. Barry isn't much calmer, his fists clenched as he glares at Laura, who has the decency to look ashamed. What is this? Barry asks, his voice trembling with anger. You leave us at home and come here with these strangers? The two men shift uncomfortably, clearly caught in the middle of something they hadn't signed up for. One of them clears his throat, looking at Vanessa and Laura with a questioning expression. Vanessa finally speaks, her voice shaky. It's not what you think. We just wanted some space, a break. We thought it would be easier if we didn't tell you. A break? I echo, disbelief thick in my voice. A break from what, exactly? From your family? From your marriage? Or is this a break for something else entirely? Laura fumbles for words, glancing at Barry with pleading eyes. It wasn't supposed to be like this. We just needed time to breathe. Barry's jaw tightens, his face dark with anger. Time to breathe? So you could do what, exactly? One of the men finally stands, sensing the storm brewing, and mutters an apology before excusing himself. The other quickly follows, leaving Vanessa and Laura alone to face us. They exchange a desperate look, but it's clear they have no real explanation for what they've done. I take a deep breath, forcing myself to keep my composure. Vanessa, I trusted you. You said this was a simple girl's trip, something innocent. But here we are, catching you in a lie, with no explanation other than needing space. Vanessa's voice is barely a whisper. I'm sorry. We didn't mean for it to get so out of hand. The words sting, but they're empty. Apologies don't change the fact that everything I believed about our relationship now feels tainted. Barry crosses his arms, looking at Laura with a mixture of hurt and anger. This is how you respect us? By lying, sneaking off, and pretending like none of it matters? There's a long, painful silence, and I know that, from this moment on, nothing between us will ever be the same. The silence hangs heavy, filled with accusations neither of us needs to say out loud. Vanessa looks down, unable to meet my gaze, while Laura shifts uncomfortably, avoiding Barry's stare. It's clear they never expected to be caught, and now, confronted with the reality, they're at a complete loss. Look, Gabe, Vanessa begins, her voice barely above a whisper. I'm sorry. This trip was supposed to be harmless. Just a chance for Laura and me to have some fun, something different, without the responsibilities back home. Her words hit me like a wave of icy water, and I can't help the anger that rises. Fun? Fun with other men? You lied to both of us. Did you think we'd never find out? Did you really believe you could just play pretend for a week and go back like nothing happened? Vanessa flinches, but she doesn't answer. Instead, she looks away, as if the guilt is too much to bear. I can feel the pain churning inside me, a mix of betrayal and frustration, but I refuse to let it control me. Right now, I need answers. Barry's face hardens as he steps closer to Laura. And you, Laura? How long has this been going on? Laura's voice trembles. It hasn't been long. It's just a break, Barry. I didn't think. Exactly, Barry interrupts, his voice seething. You didn't think. About me, about us, about what this would do. The raw emotion in his voice resonates with me. I thought I knew Vanessa, thought I could trust her with everything. But seeing her here, unable to look me in the eye, I wonder if I've been blind to things I should have seen all along. Why didn't you just talk to us? I ask, the hurt seeping through despite my attempt to stay calm. Why didn't you tell us if something was wrong? Vanessa finally looks at me, her eyes filled with regret. I thought I could handle it on my own. I thought, maybe if I had some time away, I'd feel differently. Her words are hollow, doing nothing to mend the cracks she's created. We stand there, for people in a broken circle, each of us trying to piece together the shambles of our relationships. Barry clears his throat, his face unreadable. We're going back. Tomorrow. And when we're home, we'll decide what happens next. I nod, agreeing without hesitation. This isn't a conversation we can finish here, not when there's so much left unsaid. Barry and I turn, leaving Vanessa and Laura standing alone, their guilt echoing in the silence we leave behind. Back in my cabin, I lie on the bed, staring at the ceiling, trying to process everything that just happened. The betrayal feels like an open wound, raw and unyielding, and every time I think of Vanessa laughing with that stranger, the pain digs deeper. I barely notice the hours passing, lost in a haze of disbelief and heartbreak. A soft knock on the door jolts me back to reality. I open it to find Barry standing there, looking as exhausted as I feel. Without a word, he steps inside, and we both sit down, the silence heavy between us. Did you ever imagine it would come to this? He finally asks, his voice rough with hurt. I shake my head. No, never. I thought we had something solid, you know? Sure, things weren't perfect, but I never imagined she'd lie to me like this. Barry nods slowly. Same here. It's like everything I thought I knew about Laura just evaporated. All for what? A week of freedom? It doesn't make any sense. We sit there, each of us lost in our own thoughts. For years, we both built lives with these women, trusted them, shared everything with them. And now, it all feels like a lie. The gravity of the situation presses down on us, making it hard to breathe. I keep wondering if there were signs, I admit, feeling the frustration clawing at me. Moments I brushed off or ignored. Maybe I was too focused on work, or maybe I just didn't want to see it. Don't blame yourself, Gabe, Barry says, his tone firm. This isn't on us. They made their choices, and they chose to do this behind our backs. His words offer a sliver of comfort, but they don't ease the pain. I know he's right, logically, but emotionally, it's hard to escape the feeling that I missed something critical. That maybe, in some way, I could have prevented this. After a long silence, Barry speaks again, his voice hardening. When we get back, we need to set things straight. There's no going back to how things were. I nod, feeling a resolve harden within me. This trip has changed everything, and there's no way to undo what Vanessa and Laura have done. All that's left is to confront the fallout and decide what kind of future we want without them in it. Barry and I exchange a look, an unspoken understanding passing between us. No matter what, we're not going to let this betrayal define us. The next morning, Barry and I are up early, gathering our things in silence. We agreed last night that we'd disembark as soon as possible. Being on this ship, surrounded by reminders of betrayal, feels unbearable. There's no point in staying here another second. Just as I finish packing, there's a knock at my door. I open it to find Vanessa standing there, looking worn and disheveled, like she hasn't slept a wink. For a moment, an urge to comfort her rises, a reflex born from years of being her husband. But then, reality hits me like a punch to the gut, and the anger flares up again. "We need to talk, Gabe," she says, her voice barely above a whisper. I step back, allowing her inside but maintaining a careful distance. She sits down on the edge of the bed, wringing her hands, as if searching for the right words. I wait, arms crossed, my expression stony. She takes a shaky breath. "I know I hurt you, and I know I've made mistakes, big ones. But it wasn't what you think." My patience is razor thin. "Then explain, Vanessa. Tell me what exactly I'm supposed to think after seeing you with another man, after catching you lying to me." Her eyes fill with tears, but I don't feel any sympathy. Not this time. She reaches out as if to take my hand, but I pull back, keeping my distance. "I was confused," she says, her voice trembling. "I didn't mean for it to turn into this. I thought if I could just have a little space, I'd figure out what I wanted. But everything got out of hand." "Out of hand?" I scoff, my voice laced with disbelief. "You planned a whole trip, lied to me, and spent your time with other men. That's not something that just gets out of hand, Vanessa. That's a choice. And you made it." She flinches, looking down, her tears spilling over. I thought maybe I'd find myself, Gabe. I didn't realize how much I was losing until now." The words hang between us, but they feel empty. She says she wants to find herself, but all I can see is the selfishness, the utter disregard for the life we built together. I've given her years of trust, of love, and in return, she's handed me nothing but lies. I take a deep breath, steadying myself. "Vanessa, I'm going home. Barry and I both are. When we get back, you and I need to figure out where this marriage goes from here. But don't expect things to just go back to how they were." She nods, a flicker of regret in her eyes. "I understand. I'm so sorry, Gabe. I really am." I nod, though I can't bring myself to say anything more. I gather my bag and walk past her, not looking back. It's time to leave, time to face the wreckage she's left in our lives. Barry and I catch a cab from the port to the airport in silence, each of us lost in our own storm of thoughts. I can feel the weight of everything pressing down on me. The betrayal, the heartbreak, the uncertainty of what comes next. It's like a boulder sitting on my chest, making it hard to breathe, let alone think clearly. After we pass through security and settle into seats at our gate, Barry finally speaks, his voice low and bitter. "I can't believe she thought an apology would fix this. Like it's just some little mistake she made that I can forgive and forget." I nod, feeling a similar frustration boiling inside me. Same with Vanessa. She acts like she just needed space, as if lying to me, sneaking around with another guy, was just part of some self-discovery. Barry shakes his head, his expression hardened. "I gave Laura everything. Every part of me, every ounce of trust one had. And she threw it all away like it was nothing." Hearing him speak like this, I can tell that his resolve is solidifying, just like mine. There's a moment of silence between us as we watch other travelers go by, People who seem blissfully unaware of the kind of turmoil we're going through. We can't just let them walk all over us, Gabe, Barry finally says, his voice determined. We need to make sure they understand what they've done, to both of us. I look at him, nodding slowly. You're right, but it has to be something they don't see coming. Something that makes them feel what we've felt these past few days. We start brainstorming quietly, the ideas flowing as we imagine ways to show them the consequences of their actions. From small, calculated moves to strategic decisions about our future, we begin shaping a plan, one that will make them see just how deeply their betrayal has cut. It isn't about revenge, not exactly. It's about reclaiming our dignity, about making sure that we don't just let them get away with it, unscathed. By the time our flight is called, we've outlined exactly what we'll do once we get back. A series of actions that will turn the tables on Vanessa and Laura. Barry and I share a grim look of agreement, a silent pact formed between us. We'll get through this, and we'll make sure they feel the weight of their choices. As we touch down back home, the reality of what lies ahead starts to settle in. I know that once I step through my front door, there's no avoiding the confrontation that's coming. The plans Barry and I made aren't about petty revenge. They're about reclaiming control and letting our wives understand the gravity of what they've done. We split up at the airport, agreeing to meet later in the week. Barry has his own list of things he needs to handle with Laura, just as I do with Vanessa. As I drive home, a wave of conflicting emotions hits me. Anger, sadness, even a faint sense of relief that, at the very least, I know the truth now. No more wondering, no more lies. When I pull into the driveway, I sit in the car for a moment, gathering myself. The house looks the same as always, quiet and welcoming, but it feels different now. Everything feels different. Inside, Vanessa is waiting for me in the living room, looking like she's been pacing for hours. She rushes toward me, her face etched with anxiety. Gabe, can we talk? Please. I set my bag down, keeping my expression unreadable. Sure, Vanessa. Let's talk. She leads me to the couch, and we sit facing each other, a gulf of silence stretching between us. She starts to speak, her voice trembling. I know I messed up. I know I hurt you, and I don't even know how to begin making it right. But please, Gabe, don't throw everything we have away. Her words tug at something in me, but I hold firm, remembering the moments on that cruise when she looked so carefree, laughing with someone else. Vanessa, you didn't just hurt me. You shattered every bit of trust we had. And now you're asking me to just ignore it. She flinches, looking down. No, I'm not asking you to ignore it. I'm asking you to give me a chance to prove that I still love you, that I can be the person you deserve. I feel the anger simmer beneath the surface, but I keep it controlled. You want a chance? Then earn it, Vanessa. Actions have consequences, and you're going to have to face them. I lay out my terms, the new boundaries I'm setting, the steps she'll need to take if she wants to salvage anything from this wreckage. It's not just about forgiveness. It's about accountability and respect, things that she threw away on that cruise. Vanessa listens, her face growing paler with each point I make. By the time I finish, she nods slowly, realizing that this isn't going to be an easy path for her. It's going to take more than words, more than tears, to rebuild what she's torn down. As I stand up to leave the room, she reaches out, her voice small. Gabe, thank you for giving me this chance. I pause, looking back at her, the weight of betrayal still heavy in my chest. Don't thank me yet, Vanessa. Prove to me that it's worth it. With that, I leave her sitting alone, realizing that, no matter what happens, I'll be fine on my own if she can't find a way back to the person I thought she was. The next few days blur together as I throw myself into work, keeping my mind occupied with anything other than Vanessa. At night, though, the silence of the house makes it impossible to ignore. I find myself rehashing every moment of the past years, searching for clues I might have missed, wondering if there were cracks in our marriage all along that I chose to overlook. I haven't spoken to Barry since we landed, but I know he's dealing with his own fallout. Just as we agreed, I'm giving Vanessa the space to reflect on everything and absorb the reality of the terms I set. She wants this marriage to work, or at least she says she does. Now, it's on her to prove it. By the weekend, I feel the need to step out, to do something that reminds me of life beyond this mess. I head out for a run, the fresh air helping to clear my head, each step pounding out some of the lingering frustration and anger. After a few miles, I stop at a coffee shop, and as I order, a familiar face catches my eye, Barry. He looks just as surprised to see me, but there's something in his expression, a clarity, maybe even a bit of peace. We grab our coffees and sit outside, letting the silence settle over us. So, he finally says, taking a sip, "How's it going?" I shrug. I laid everything out for Vanessa, told her what I need to even consider staying together. She said she'd try, but I don't know. I keep thinking maybe I should just walk away. Barry nods, staring out at the street. I get it. I told Laura the same thing. She begged. She cried. Promised me the world. But I told her if there's even a hint of dishonesty or disrespect, we're done. No more second chances. The steel in his voice resonates with me, a reminder of the resolve we both shared that day on the cruise. We don't have to put up with lies, with betrayal. We deserve more than that. Barry glances at me, a faint smirk breaking through his serious expression. You know, this whole mess made me realize how much I neglected my own happiness. I used to think if I just kept the peace, everything would work itself out. But not anymore. I'm taking my life back. His words strike a chord. I feel the same pull towards something new, a life I control, not one dictated by trying to please or appease someone who didn't respect me. Maybe, just maybe, the fallout from this betrayal is the start of something better. As we sit there, a strange sense of relief settles over me. Whether Vanessa and I can rebuild or not, I know one thing for sure. I won't settle for less than what I deserve. When I return home, I feel lighter somehow, as if talking with Barry shifted something inside me. I realize that I've spent too much time trying to keep the peace, compromising myself to make things work with Vanessa. But after everything that's happened, I know things can't go back to the way they were. If I'm going to rebuild my life, it has to be on my terms. I walk into the living room, where Vanessa sits on the couch, looking up as I enter. She's been quieter lately, her demeanor subdued, as if she's finally come to grips with the seriousness of what she's done. There's no more defiance, no more attempts at deflecting blame, just a silence filled with regret. "Gabe," she begins, her voice low and tentative. "I know I can't change the past. I can't erase what I did, and I'll carry that regret with me for the rest of my life. But I want you to know, I'm willing to do whatever it takes to fix this, even if it means starting from scratch." There's a vulnerability in her eyes I haven't seen in years, a flicker of genuine remorse. But this time, I don't feel the pull to comfort her, to tell her that everything will be okay. This time, I'm focused on myself, on what I need, regardless of what she wants. "Vanessa," I say, my voice steady, "you need to understand that this isn't just about what you're willing to do. This is about what I'm willing to accept, what I can move past. And right now, I'm not sure if I can trust you again." She looks down, nodding slowly. "I know, and I don't expect you to trust me right away. I just want the chance to show you that I can be better." There's a part of me that wants to believe her, that wants to believe that things can be fixed, that we can find a way back to each other. But another part of me, the part that has been hurt and betrayed, isn't so sure. "I'll give it time," I say finally, "but I'm not making any promises. We'll take it one step at a time. And if you can prove to me that this marriage is worth saving, maybe, just maybe, we'll find a way forward." Relief floods her face, and she nods, gratitude evident in her expression. But I'm careful not to let my guard down completely. Trust, once broken, takes time to rebuild, and I'm not going to compromise my self-respect again. I leave the room, feeling a strange mix of emotions, hope, hesitation, and a resolve to never lose sight of my own worth. This might be the start of something new, whether it's with Vanessa or not, and I'm ready to face whatever comes next. The days that follow are a delicate dance. Vanessa tries to earn back my trust, going out of her way to be transparent, checking in frequently, sharing the details of her day in ways she never did before. But for me, each step feels like it's on uncertain ground. The wounds are too fresh, and every small interaction reminds me of the betrayal. I find myself drawn to new routines, things I never prioritized before. I start spending time with old friends I drifted from, rekindling connections that had faded as I poured myself into our marriage. It's refreshing, liberating even, to reconnect with parts of myself that I'd set aside. Meanwhile, Vanessa is relentless in her efforts, arranging couples therapy, suggesting new ways to rebuild. I go along with it, partly out of curiosity, partly out of a desire to see if there's anything left between us worth saving. The therapist is firm, grounding us in the difficult truths of what it takes to rebuild a relationship after such deep betrayal. She doesn't sugarcoat things, reminding Vanessa that trust must be earned, that forgiveness is not a given. One evening, after another therapy session, Vanessa and I sit in silence in the car. She looks at me, her face pale in the dim light, her eyes searching mine for any sign of hope. "Do you think you can ever truly forgive me?" she asks, her voice barely above a whisper. I pause, considering my answer carefully. I don't know. I don't know if forgiveness is the right word. Maybe acceptance. Maybe I can accept that what happened happened and decide whether I can live with it or not. She nods slowly, absorbing my words. "I'm willing to wait, to give you whatever time you need." I lean back, taking a deep breath, and for the first time, I feel a small spark of something that resembles peace. Not because I know what the future holds, but because, finally, I'm choosing my own path. Whether Vanessa is part of it or not is something time will tell, but I know that, from here on out, I'll never sacrifice my happiness or self-worth for someone else. In the weeks that follow, I embrace my independence, making decisions that prioritize my own growth, my own happiness. And as I do, I realize that forgiveness, whether for Vanessa or for myself, might come in ways I hadn't anticipated. I feel stronger, more grounded, and no longer defined by the betrayal that once shattered me. And in that strength, I find something I hadn't expected, a new beginning. Whatever the future holds, I'm ready for it, and for the first time in a long time, I feel free. Have you ever faced a betrayal that changed your life? Share your story in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more gripping tales of resilience and growth. ***.